But you are right about Porter helping me a lot.
You know that was the last thing on my mind.
He got a little aggravated. In fact, after I left the TV show, he got so mad. There was some feuding and fussing for a few years.
She's the queen of rhinestones, the sweetheart of country music, and one of the most beloved women on the planet. But what happens when the man who made you famous turns into your biggest enemy?
It's really a humbling experience, and it was wonderful that night with Porter, and knowing that Porter was such a big part of country music, because it was because of Porter.
In 1979, Dolly Parton was dragged into court by her own mentor, who demanded over $3 million and accused her of betrayal after years of control. This is a story of ambition, heartbreak, power struggles, and a legal battle that nearly crushed a legend. Buckle up, this one gets messy. The golden partnership that launched a legend. By 1967, Porter Wagoner was a massive deal. We're talking syndicated TV shows, millions of viewers every week. Total Nashville royalty. When he spotted young Dolly Parton, he didn't just see talent, he saw a gold mine waiting to be discovered. Porter didn't mess around. He gave Dolly a spot on The Porter Wagoner Show, where she'd perform for huge audiences week after week. He became her mentor, her manager, her producer, basically everything. For a girl from the mountains with literally nothing, Porter was offering the keys to the kingdom. And honestly, they were magic together. Their duets were fire, songs like The Last Thing on My Mind and Please Don't Stop Loving Me had audiences completely hooked. The chemistry, the harmonies, the playful energy, it was genuine gold. People couldn't get enough. But behind the glittery curtain, things were getting complicated. See, Porter was old-school country through and through, and he wanted to keep Dolly's sound traditional and safe. But Dolly, she was hungry, restless, always pushing for more, always chafing against his control. He produced her albums, managed her career, which meant every single decision went through him. What started as protection was starting to feel like a cage. But here's the question nobody was asking. Who exactly was this girl Porter had plucked from obscurity? And how did she end up in Nashville in the first place? One night, 2 legendary songs, and a painful goodbye. Porter started pushing Dolly to abandon the very thing that made her special, her Appalachian roots. He wanted her to stop writing about coal mines and poverty and her Tennessee childhood. His reasoning? Audiences in Idaho and Canada don't care about your mama's old black kettle or your dad's work boots. Write universal love songs. Make it commercial. To Dolly, this wasn't just criticism. It was asking her to erase her soul for radio play. Those stories about her family, her struggles, her mountains, that was her identity. That was her art. And she refused to compromise. So instead of giving in, she did what she does best, she wrote her way out. One emotional night in Antioch, Tennessee, sitting by her fireplace with nothing but her pain and her pen, Dolly created 2 of the most iconic songs in music history. In just a couple of hours, she wrote both I Will Always Love You and Jolene. I Will Always Love You was her goodbye letter to Porter. Gratitude and heartbreak wrapped up in one perfect song. She later said she was having so much trouble leaving his show, and the only way she could make him understand how she felt was through music. The next day, she brought it to his office and sang it for him. Porter wept. He told her it was the best thing she'd ever written, but even in that raw moment, he couldn't let go completely. He agreed to let her leave the show, but only if he could produce the recording. It was respect mixed with one final power move, his way of staying connected to her success even as she walked away. The song took off, but when success comes that big, That fast, everything changes. And Porter wasn't ready to let go of his golden goose. But to understand why this betrayal cut so deep, you need to know where Dolly came from and just how impossible her journey really was. The mountain girl with impossible dreams. Before the rhinestones and fame, Dolly Parton was just a poor kid from the Tennessee mountains, crammed into a one-room cabin with 11 siblings. No money, no space, and a father who couldn't read or write. But Dolly had something else, unshakable determination. By 8, she had a guitar. By 10, she was on the radio. By 13, she'd played the Grand Ole Opry. At 18, she boarded a bus to Nashville with nothing but a dream. No backup plan, no safety net, just raw ambition and talent for days. Wild, right? Then came Porter Wagoner, her big break. He gave her everything she'd been fighting for. Which is why what he did next, 5 years after she left his show, felt like the ultimate betrayal. The betrayal that rocked Nashville, $3 million and a knife in the back. March 1979. 5 years after Dolly left his show, Porter Wagoner filed a lawsuit that absolutely shocked the music world. He was suing Dolly for over $3 million. His claim? Breach of contract. He wanted 15% of her net income and record royalties for 5 years after she left. Not a one-time payment, an ongoing slice of everything she earned. Forever tied to her success, permanently attached to her paycheck. Porter's argument was simple. I made you. I deserve to profit from you. He wanted an accounting of her income, a piece of her royalties, and legal confirmation that he was entitled to her future earnings. Here's what makes this so brutal. Dolly was struggling financially in 1979. She didn't have the money to fight this properly. She was trying to build her solo career, transition from country to pop, deal with massive touring costs. This lawsuit wasn't just inconvenient, it was a calculated strike at her most vulnerable moment. For Dolly, this wasn't business, it was betrayal. She'd always credited Porter publicly, had literally written him into one of the greatest love songs ever recorded. To have him drag her into court, after everything they'd been through, absolutely devastating. She later admitted the legal fight drained her emotionally and financially, saying it took her a while to pay it off, but he got the first $1 million she ever made. The lawsuit eventually settled out of court. Dolly paid Porter approximately $1 million in installments instead of the full $3 million. It wasn't the total victory he wanted, but it also wasn't the clean break Dolly needed. The settlement meant Porter would always be part of her story, forever connected to her narrative, even though they weren't speaking. But money was never really the point. This was about power, legacy, and what happens when mentors can't let their protégés fly. And while this legal battle was draining her bank account and breaking her heart, Dolly was building something Porter could never touch. While the lawsuit raged, the empire Dolly was building. While Porter was busy suing her, Dolly was literally rewriting the rules of the music industry. I Will Always Love You had already topped country charts in 1974, and she re-recorded it in 1982 for The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. But the song's true immortality came in 1992 when Whitney Houston's absolutely massive version for The Bodyguard turned it into one of the best-selling singles of all time, topping charts in 34 countries. And because Dolly kept the publishing rights, she made millions. Porter? Not a single penny. Jolene, written that same magical night, became one of the most covered songs in history. 9 to 5 became her first #1 pop hit and won her a Grammy. Songs like Coat of Many Colors and Love is Like a Butterfly showed the world she could tell stories that made people feel understood. By the mid-1970s, Dolly had pulled off something incredible. She crossed from country to pop without losing credibility in either world. The Country Music Association named her Female Singer of the Year in 1975 and 1976. Here You Come Again hit number 3 on pop charts and number 1 on country in 1977. She was selling out arenas with pop crowds while still being country radio royalty. But Dolly's transformation wasn't just musical. In the 1980s, she began changing her appearance in ways that would become almost as famous as her music. She's always been refreshingly honest about it. Chest implants, facelifts, Botox, fillers, a nose job. Unlike most celebrities who hide their cosmetic work, Dolly owns it completely. She told Howard Stern she does just little bits at a time and tries to be careful to maintain a natural look. Her philosophy? Take care of yourself and never apologize for your choices. It's part of her brand, her confidence, her image. And she's never once been ashamed of it. But while she was building this empire and transforming herself into a global icon, there was one constant in her life that kept her grounded. A quiet man who wanted nothing to do with the spotlight. The private man behind the public icon. Carl Dean and Dolly's secret love story. Remember Carl Dean, the guy Dolly met outside that laundromat on her first day in Nashville? Their relationship was everything. Her career wasn't quiet, private, grounded. Carl was Dolly's complete opposite. She was flamboyant and always on. He was a quiet asphalt contractor who loved trucks and tractors and staying home on their property outside Nashville. They got married in a secret ceremony with barely any witnesses, and Carl spent their entire marriage avoiding the spotlight like it was on fire. But Dolly loved him fiercely. She once said he was a good man, first of all, with a great and warped sense of humor who made her laugh constantly. She explained they were completely opposite. But that's what made it fun. She never knew what he'd say or do next. The most beautiful part, every spring, Carl would bring Dolly a bouquet of daffodils with a little poem he'd written. In a world of grand romantic gestures, that simple act of picking wildflowers was the kind of love that actually lasted. On March 3, 2025, Dolly announced Carl's death at age 82. When she shared the news, she wrote that words couldn't do justice to the love they'd shared for over 60 years. At the Grand Ole Opry's 100th anniversary show in October 2025, when dozens of artists performed I Will Always Love You as a tribute to Carl, Dolly completely broke down in tears. Losing Carl meant losing her anchor. The one person who'd always understood her, who never demanded she be anything other than exactly who she was. But even in grief, Dolly kept moving forward, because that's who she is. And that same resilience would be tested again when her body started sending her warning signals she couldn't ignore. The health crisis that couldn't stop her. In September 2025, Dolly shocked everyone by postponing her Las Vegas residency due to undisclosed health challenges requiring multiple procedures. She joked it was time for her 100,000-mile checkup, Classic Dolly, using humor to deflect from something serious. Then, in early October, her sister Frida posted on Facebook asking for prayer warriors to pray for Dolly's health. The internet exploded. Was she dying? Fans flooded social media with concern and prayers. Dolly's team initially downplayed it as just kidney stones, which made fans even more upset. Kidney stones aren't just anything, they're excruciating and can cause serious infections, which is exactly what happened to Dolly. She revealed she'd suffered a kidney stone that led to an infection, requiring medical procedures and keeping her close to Vanderbilt Medical Center. But instead of hiding, Dolly addressed it head-on. On October 8, 2025, she posted a video from a Grand Ole Opry commercial shoot. Fully glammed up and working. "Do I look sick to you? I'm putting in a lot of effort here." She admitted that after Carl died in March, she'd neglected her health and let things slide. But instead of panicking, she simply decided to handle it. Most importantly, she made one thing crystal clear. "I'm not dying. I'm not ready to go yet. I don't believe God is finished with me. And I still have work to do. I ain't dead yet." This is classic Dolly, facing adversity with humor, transparency, and unshakable faith. At 79 years old, she's still working, still creating, still showing up, and now nothing is going to stop her. That same determination had helped her survive Porter's betrayal decades earlier, and it would eventually lead to something nobody expected: forgiveness. From betrayal to forgiveness, the healing that changed everything. After the lawsuit, Porter and Dolly barely spoke for years. The relationship that had felt like family turned ice cold. Porter's career never regained its momentum, while Dolly became a global phenomenon, pop icon, actress, business mogul. But time has a way of softening even the deepest wounds. By the late 1980s, they started reconnecting. Porter made guest appearances on Dolly's variety show. They found ways to laugh about their past, to remember the good times, to admit they genuinely cared about each other despite everything. Dolly's forgiving nature and deep Christian faith played a huge role in that reconciliation. She refused to let bitterness be the final word on their story. When Porter Wagoner died in 2007, Dolly was there at his bedside 2 hours before he passed, bringing their relationship full circle. In later interviews, Dolly reflected with remarkable grace. "We were like oil and water, but we always loved each other." She acknowledged his tough mentorship helped shape her into the artist she became, a dynamic that mirrors so many mentor-protege relationships fueled by ambition, affection, and clashing egos. Whatever pain the lawsuit caused was finally healed by time and compassion. And that same compassion has fueled some of Dolly's most important work that has changed millions of lives around the world. The Angel in Rhinestones, Dolly's world-changing philanthropy. In 1995, inspired by her father's inability to read and write, Dolly launched the Imagination Library, one of the most impactful charitable programs in modern history. Since then, the program has mailed over 125 million free books to children from birth to age 5 around the world. What started in her home county in East Tennessee has exploded into an international operation spanning 5 countries: the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, and Ireland. Every month, thousands of children receive a specially selected age-appropriate book in the mail, completely free. Dolly's dream: to distribute 1 billion books in her lifetime. In 2022, she received the Carnegie Medal of Philanthropy for this extraordinary work. But Dolly's impact extends way beyond literacy. She's been a vocal advocate for the LGBTQ+ community for decades. Back in 1991, when the world was still deeply homophobic, she released Family, a song with the line, "Some are preachers, some are gay, some are addicts, drunks, and strays. But not a one is turned away when it's family." This wasn't a throwaway lyric. It was a deliberate solidarity statement when such statements were genuinely risky for country stars. In 2011, when someone at Dollywood was forced to turn their pro-marriage equality shirt inside out, Dolly responded publicly with an apology and made it clear that at her park, all families are welcome. Period. When Tennessee passed anti-trans legislation in 2023, Dolly refused to stay silent. She said she knows and loves transgender people, has them as employees and family members, and supports them unconditionally. She wants everybody to be treated good. Her LGBTQ+ fan base has always been one of her most devoted audiences, and Dolly has never treated that relationship as transactional. She supports them because she genuinely believes in treating all people with kindness and respect. And that belief in treating everyone with dignity extends to the massive entertainment empire she's built. The empire that never stops growing. Since 1986, Dolly has been the dreamer-in-chief of Dollywood, her massive theme park in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. What started as a small amusement park has grown into one of the most visited and highly rated theme parks in America. It now includes Splash Country Water Park, the Dream More Resort and Spa, the Heart Song Lodge and Resort, and hosts incredible seasonal events. In 2025, Dollywood celebrated its 40th anniversary season, and despite grief and health challenges, Dolly showed up to celebrate with her family. The park announced record attendance in 2024 and major new attractions coming in 2026. Awards? Dolly's shelf is literally overflowing. 11 Grammy Awards, including a Lifetime Achievement Award, Country Music Hall of Fame induction, CMA Awards, ACM Awards, and Grammy nominations as recently as 2024 and 2025. The Carnegie Medal of Philanthropy in 2022 for her life-changing humanitarian work. And when social media tried to cancel Dolly in December 2025 based on false, manipulated quotes claiming she was racist, the internet united to defend her. The fake post went viral with over 715 views, but the community stepped in immediately to protect her. That's the kind of goodwill and genuine kindness that builds armor against attempted takedowns. After nearly 80 years on this earth, after countless achievements and challenges, Dolly is still beloved, still trusted, still relevant, and she's showing no signs of slowing down. The legend who refuses to quit. Dolly Parton's life sounds like the ultimate country song: poverty to power, betrayal to forgiveness, heartbreak to survival. She was sued by her own mentor, battled serious health scares, and lost the love of her life, yet she never stopped moving forward. At 79, instead of slowing down, she's creating Dolly, the musical, touring nationally, and collaborating with new generations of artists. Dolly's story proves that success comes from grit, grace, and believing in yourself. She's a survivor, a businesswoman, a humanitarian, and proof that dreams aren't just for people born into privilege. If this inspired you, hit like, subscribe, and comment on your favorite Dolly song. Share this story with someone who needs it, because Dolly's journey isn't over, and neither is yours.